Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the last video, we discussed about creating a map visual. Now in this video, we will be discussing about creating a table visual and a metrics visual, right? So I will simply first of all click here on new page, and this will add a new page, create a new page for us. But before beginning with the discussion, I will first of all, this is the report view that you can see as of now on the screen. This is the report view. But now I will simply click here on table view, and this shows nothing but the data that we have. And all the visuals that we have created so far were built on top of this data that we have, right? This is the underlying data. And if I'll further click on the report view, then you can see that we have created the line chart, area chart, ribbon chart. We created other visuals, line and stack column chart, clustered column chart, scatter plot. All these were created on the top of that underlying data that you just saw. Now I will go back to the page one and let's start creating the table visual first of all. So here you can see that here we have this icon, that is table visual icon under the visualizations pane. I will simply click here on this icon and this will add or create a blank table visual. I will further resize it. All right. And let's say in this particular table visual, I want to represent different countries first of all. So having this particular table visual selected, I will simply double click on the country field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here under columns bucket. Here we have only one bucket, that is columns bucket. So I will just simply place it here under columns bucket, and you can see that it shows you the distinct countries that you have in your data set. So in our data set, since we are having only one country, that is United States, that's why it has summarized the data and it is showing you the distinct countries that you have in your data set. Now let's say for this particular country, I also want to know about the total sales and total profit. So I will simply double click on this sales field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here under columns bucket beneath country field. So this now shows the total sales for this particular country. Now I'll again simply double click on this profit field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in columns bucket under your sales field. So it now shows, the table visual now shows the total sales and total profit for this particular country. And only United States is being shown because we have only one country in our data set. Now let's say we are also interested in representing or showing the sales and profit for all the different regions that we have in our data set. So I will simply double click on this region field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in columns bucket beneath country field. So you can see that we have different, we only have one country. So United States is written 4 times. Since we have 4 different regions, so distinct for each distinct combination of country and region, sales and profit is being represented, right? So there are cases and situations where we want to show exact numbers. These type of representations can be done. And there are cases where we want to show the data in the tabular form as well. So these type of visuals, that is table visual and metrics visual, can be used under all those circumstances. Also, let's say for this particular table visual, I also want to show the different cities. So if I'll simply double click on the city field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in the columns bucket under this region column. So you can see that this now shows the sales and profit for each distinct combination of country, region, and city, right? So that's how we can represent the data in a flat structure form using a table visual. All right, I'll further resize it. So this is all about a table visual that we have created, and this was all about how to create a table visual and how to add certain fields in it. Also, for this particular table visual, you should note that we were having only one bucket, that is columns bucket. So we placed all the fields under the data pane in this particular bucket only, because we are having only one option, that is columns bucket. Now, let's say I want to add a border to this table visual. So having this table visual selected, I'll simply click here on Format Your Visual, General, and then I will simply, under Effects, I will change this visual border to all. Right. So that's how this looks. All right. But now you can see that there are a large number of distinct combinations for country, region, and city. So there will be a lot of records from which you will have to read, right? If you want to know about those numbers. That is one. Now let's create a matrix visual. So again, first of all, I'll click here on the blank area on the canvas, and then I will simply click here on this matrix visual icon under the visualizations pane. And this will create a blank matrix chart for us. I will further resize it And let's say in this matrix visual, we want to represent the same data that we represented in this table visual, but this time we will be representing this data in a matrix visual. So I'll simply click here on the blank matrix chart that has been created. And for this matrix visual, you can see that we have three different buckets, that is rows, columns, and values. So we can put different grains in these three buckets. While for the table visual, we were having only one bucket, that is column. So we put all the fields in column bucket. Now I'll just simply click here on the matrix visual. The benefit is with matrix visual is that when we want to view the data at different grain levels and we want to summarize the data at different grain levels, we are interested in knowing about the exact values. We want to see the exact gaps, differences, offsets in those numbers. So matrix visuals becomes important. So it gives a better view, right? So that's why we prefer using a matrix visual. So let's take an example to understand this. So whatever data we have represented in the table visual, we'll be representing the same data in the matrix visual as well. So I'll just simply click here on the matrix visual. Then I'll just simply double click on the country column under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in rows bucket. Then I will simply double click on the sales field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in values bucket. Similarly, since we are also interested in representing the profit, so I will simply double click on this profit field under this data pane and will drag and drop it here in values bucket under sales grain. And this is how the data is being represented in the pivot. All right. Now, let's say we also want to represent the data for different regions. So I will simply double click here on this region field under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in columns bucket. This now shows the total of sales and total of profit for each one of the regions, right? So since we are having only one country in our data set, so it means we have one distinct value for country, that is United States. So for this country, there are four different regions. We have central, we have east, we have south, and we have west. And for each one of them, two totals are being represented, that is sum of sales and sum of profit. And now since we want to represent this data for each city as well, so I will simply double click here on city grain under the data pane and will drag and drop it here in rows bucket under this column, country column. All right. So here you can see that a plus icon appears before this United States, the country name. When I'll simply click on it, so it will further get expanded and it now shows you the sum value, sum of profit and sales for different regions, different cities, and different countries. Since here we are having only one country, so data is being represented only for one country. So this matrix visual actually has given you a hierarchical view, and using this hierarchy view, you can further summarize the data at certain grains and it becomes easier to read that data, right? Like for example, in this case, we are having only one country, right? What if we were having more than one countries and we wanted to know about the totals at the country level? So it will be comparatively difficult to read it in the table visual, but it will be easier to know about that in the case of a matrix visual, right? So when there are multiple grains, when we want to view the data at multiple dimension levels, it is recommended to use a matrix visual. Although as per our need and convenience, we can use for representing the data in a tabular structure, we can use both these visuals, right? So that is the point. Also, if I'll talk about the matrix visual and if I'll expand this United States for some time, so you can see that the totals are being represented on the right hand side for sales and profit. So you can have the totals for each record and then you can have the totals for your each column as well, right? But in the table visual, we have the totals for each column, but for each record, we are not having the totals so far represented, right? But for matrix, you have the totals on the right hand side for each record, and then you have totals in the bottom for each one of the columns. So these are some of the differences between table and matrix visual, and we also discussed about the situations where we can use these type of charts. And I will be uploading more videos where miscellaneous videos where we'll discuss about some questions and situations on where to use them and how to use them, especially when there are situations where you want to show exact numbers, you want to show gaps or differences between those numbers, you want to create some reconciliations, you want to show offsets. In those cases, using these visuals, especially matrix visual, can be very helpful. So we'll be taking some questions as well in the miscellaneous section to discuss more about them. And in the next video, we will discuss about formatting these two visuals. So I hope this video was helpful. We'll meet in the next session. Till then, thank you. Bye-bye.